Hey guys, welcome to Virtual English. I know this is a learning experience for me, and I know it's going to be a learning experience for you. So let's just work together and get through this first lesson, and I promise you it'll be easier moving forward. So today we're going to start on page 120, and we're going to go over nouns. Just as a review, a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. You have common nouns and you have proper nouns. A common noun is anything that isn't particular. It isn't a particular thing. So this chair or this book or this table, they're all common nouns. Then you have your proper nouns. Proper nouns are always going to be capitalized, and they are a particular person, place, or thing. Miss Finn is proper. Mount Vernon is proper. Those are your particulars. Then you have something called a concrete noun and an abstract noun. A concrete noun is your person, place, or thing. So it names whatever exists as a physical or material substance. You can pick it up. It's touchable. It's tangible. This book is concrete because I can touch it. Then you have your abstract nouns. Your abstract nouns are your ideas. They're a quality, state, activity, or a general idea. So strength, honor, mercy, grace, goodness, all of those things would be considered abstract because you can't touch them, right? They're all in your head. You can't touch it and pick it up. The next thing we're going to talk about is a compound noun. Now, a compound noun is simply two or more words used as a singular noun. For example, frostbite. Frost is a word, bite is a word. Put them together, frostbite makes a compound noun. And then there's something that we're going to talk about in the future, but I just want to mention it now. It's called a substantive. A substantive simply means that you are talking about a word, phrase, or clause that can be used as a noun. So I want you to look at the exercise on page 120. You are to do the evens. So it says circle all abstract nouns, box all collective nouns, and then underline all compound nouns. The next thing we're going to go over is on page 121, and it's making verbs agree with noun subjects. Now, a subject is a noun or pronoun that tells who or what the sentence is about. Remember your noun jobs. There are lots of things that a noun can be. Right now, we are just going to talk about them as subjects. So, the verb of a sentence must agree with its subject in number. So, what does that mean? It means if your subject is singular, your verb must also be singular. If your subject is plural, then your verb must also be plural. It must agree in number. So, quick trick, nouns ending in S are usually plural, and verbs ending in S are usually singular. So, for example, the boy works hard. Notice there's no S on the end of boy, making it a singular noun. There is an S on the end of works, which means it's a singular verb. So keep that in mind. It'll help you in the future when you're picking out your verbs and your nouns or subjects, singular versus plural. The number of a subject is not usually affected by phrases between the subject and the verb. I want you to look at the example on number 3 on page 121. The row of bushes was planted to form a privacy screen. Notice that you have a phrase that comes in between your subject and your verb. Row is your subject. Was is your verb. Of bushes comes in between. Now, bushes is plural. Row is not. So, what does your verb agree with? Does it agree with row or does it agree with bushes? It's going to agree with row because row is what your subject is. So if row is singular, it doesn't matter if bushes is plural. Doesn't matter. Take it out. Look at the sentence without having that phrase in there and see if it matches up. The row were or the row was? The row was. The next thing, the verb agrees with the subject, not the predicate nominative. So, do not be confused by a predicate nominative that differs in number from the subject. For example, number 4. The steaks were the biggest expense. Notice your subject, steaks, is plural. Your predicate nominative, what's your predicate nominative? Expense, right? Expense is singular. So which one is your verb going to agree with? Is it going to agree with steaks, which is plural, or expense, which is singular? It's going to agree with steaks because steaks is your subject and your verb must agree, right? So just don't even pay attention to your predicate nominative in that case. Just look at your subject and your verb. So I want you to do the exercise on page 121. I want you to do the odds. It says to underline each subject and then cross out the incorrect verb in parentheses. So for example, you're doing the odds, so we will do the even. Number 2, his good work in addition to his cheerful attitude makes him a good prospect. So where is our subject? First, let's look at our verb. Our verb is make or makes. Well, what make or makes? His work does, right? So that is our subject. So we would underline the word work. Then we would go over to our verb and we would go, okay, is work singular or is work plural? Does work go with make or does work go with makes? Makes. Work makes. So you would cross out make and leave makes behind. Okay, moving on. Page 122. Number 5, if a sentence asks a question or begins with there or here, you must be careful to locate the subject and make the verb agree with it. Remember, there and here are rarely subjects. They're almost never going to be the subject of your sentence. And when your sentence is a question, it is always inverted. So you need to put it back the way it should go. Put it back to where your subject is before your verb. And this will help you find it. So make sure that you are looking for the correct subject. There is not your subject. Here is not your subject. Doesn't, isn't, and wasn't are singular. Don't, aren't, and weren't are plural. Make sure that you use them correctly. For example, is it that car weren't made in America or that car wasn't made in America? Wasn't, right? Because wasn't is singular and car is singular. Titles of literary works, works of art, organizations, cities, and countries are usually singular even if they are plural in form. For example, Pickwick Papers is a novel written by Charles Dickens. Well, you look at that and you see Pickwick Papers. Papers is plural, right? So shouldn't that be Pickwick Papers are a novel? No. Pickwick Papers is the name of one singular literary work. Therefore, it would take a singular verb. And then you have some words that are usually singular, although they're plural in form. Mumps, measles, rickets, molasses, news, stamina. All of these words look plural but are used singularly, so watch out for that as well. I want you to do the exercise on page 122. You are going to do the odds. Underline each subject and cross out the incorrect verb in parentheses. So you are basically doing the same thing that you did on page 121. You're just following the new rules set before you on page 122. And then let's move to page 123. We're almost done, guys. 2 more pages. A collective noun can either be singular or it can be plural. So a collective noun names a group and is singular in form. A collective noun is singular when the group is thought of as a unit. A collective noun is plural when the group is thought of as individuals acting separately. So let's look into this. Let's look at our examples. The jury has been dismissed. The whole jury has been dismissed. So in this case, we are not looking at each individual jury member. We are just looking at the jury as a whole. So it is, excuse me, it is singular. Now, the jury were unable to agree among themselves. In this case, the key words come in the predicate of the sentence. We're talking about unable to agree among themselves. That tells us that we are talking about each individual jury member, and therefore jury is plural and needs a plural verb. Expressions stating amounts, such as fractions, measurements, money, and time, may be either singular or plural. It works much like a collective noun. If they are singular, or they are singular when the amount is considered a unit. So just like a collective noun, when it's considered a unit, it is singular. Now they are plural when the amount is regarded as separate parts. So for example, $6 for a hamburger is expensive. Yes, it is. We are talking about $6 as a unit of payment. We are going to pay the unit of $6 for a hamburger. In this case, it is singular. Now, $6 were placed in separate envelopes and distributed to the children. Once again, the key words come in the predicate of the sentence. Placed in separate envelopes. So each of the $6 were placed in an individual envelope. This tells us that we are talking about it not as a unit, but as separate parts. So it would then be considered plural. And then the last thing on this page, words that end in ICS, your X words, they can be singular or plural depending on the meaning. If you are talking about a course of study or a science, then that is singular. So in other words, mathematics class. Mathematics is singular in this case because you are talking about a course of study. Move on to gymnastics. Now, gymnastics is not a course of study or a science. So in this case, gymnastics are performed before large audiences now. It would be considered plural. So I want you to do the exercise on page 123. Underline each subject. For expressions stating amounts, underline the whole expression. Cross out the incorrect verb in parentheses. So basically doing the same thing, just added in an extra part. You are going to underline the whole expression if the expression is stating amounts. And I want you to do the odds. Last page, guys. Page 124. Compound subjects joined by and take a plural verb. This is number 12 on page 124. Jack and Joe were here today. Notice Jack is singular, Joe is singular, but when we put them together with the conjunction and, they become plural in form, and we use a plural verb. So Jack and Joe were here today, not was here today. Then, when a compound subject is joined by or, nor, neither or either or neither nor, the verb agrees with the nearer subject. So, for example, look at this example that it gives you in the book. Either her helpers or the librarian is there to assist you. Look at which one of those subjects is closest to your verb. In this case, librarian is closest to your verb. Is librarian singular or plural? It's singular. Therefore, it's going to take a singular verb. Now, if we switched it around, either the librarian or her helpers are there to assist you. Notice this time the verb turns to plural because helpers is plural and it is closest to the verb. So I want you to do the following. Exercise A, you're going to do all of them. Circle the conjunction that joins the parts of each compound subject. underline the compound subjects, and cross out the incorrect verb in parentheses. Exercise B, you're going to do all of them. Circle the conjunction that joins the parts of each compound subject, underline the part of the subject nearest the verb, and then cross out the incorrect verb in parentheses. Exercise C and D, you only need to do the odds. So for exercise C, circle the conjunction that joins the parts of each compound subject. Cross out the incorrect verb in parentheses. So you're just circling the conjunction and then marking out the incorrect verb. And then exercise D, all you're doing is crossing out the incorrect verb in parentheses. All right, guys, I hope this helped a little bit. I will see you next lesson.